You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast, episode 13.
You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast, the number one resource for growing your function musician business. If you're a solo wedding singer, part of a 12-piece luxury show band, or anything in between, and want to learn from other successful musicians, you're in the right place.
You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast. I am your host, Jack Twiner. If this is your first time listening, then welcome. If you're a regular listener, then welcome back. This podcast is for function musicians who are looking to grow their business, book more gigs, hear some inspiring stories, and generally just learn from others who've been doing it successfully for years. So this episode is going to start a little bit differently to usual. I want to share something that I heard the other day that has got me thinking about my goals and how I can achieve them. And I thought I want to share it with you guys, and maybe it would get you thinking about some of your goals and how you can achieve them as well. So I was listening to a guest on another podcast the other day, and they had like a cool way of looking at things. So this person is a wedding videographer, and he said that when he first started, he had this weird goal that if Oprah ever had a wedding videographer on her show, then he wanted that to be him. And once he had this big, weird end goal, he could try and reverse engineer how to make that happen. And it's not necessarily that he wanted to be on Oprah, it's about having this big end goal and working backwards. Now, I don't know about you, but I have goals, personal goals, business goals, goals with this podcast even, but they're generally like, okay, this is what I want to achieve next. You achieve it, and then you come up with a new goal. But this has really got me thinking about what the end goal is. Firstly, what is that goal? And secondly, how do I achieve it? What are the necessary steps that I need to take to achieve that big goal? So to put that into some context of a function musician, maybe you have a wedding band. Maybe you don't even have a band, but you want to be playing celebrity weddings, big budget weddings where you're getting like 15 grand per gig. And the goal is obviously personal to you. It can be whatever you want. It's only you that can come up with that. But once you have it, you can start thinking about how to get there. And if you don't have a band, then maybe step one would probably be start a band. But yeah, hopefully you get the picture. I can't tell you exactly what those steps are. Hopefully this podcast can help you figure some of those out as well. But yeah, I just thought it was a cool way of thinking. I wanted to share it with you guys. I might do some more bits like this in the future. If you're into it, I might even do some solo episodes. So let me know if you like it. If you don't like it, just send me an email. That's feedback@thefulltimefunctionmusicianpodcast.co.uk. But anyways, on to our episode today. And I've got another awesome guest lined up for you. Today, I'm going to be chatting with Vasyl Sahan. Vasyl is originally from Ukraine, but he's now living in London and trying to figure out how to make it as a full-time musician in a new country. Basically having to start again, and I'm sure there are loads of people listening who have been on or are on the same journey as that. Whether you've come to this country or you're from here and you're trying to make it elsewhere, Vasyl's got a really good insight into that. I really enjoyed talking to him, and I found him really inspiring. He's super hardworking and has this never give up attitude. But yeah, that's enough from me. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Vasyl Sahan. You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast, and on today's episode, I am joined by Vasyl Sahan. Born in Ukraine, Vasyl studied his undergraduate and master's qualifications at the Kharkiv National University of Arts. There, he specialized in jazz performance and has since gone on to play many notable settings and winning awards such as the Grand Prix in Sumy Jazz Fest. He has gained great experience traveling the world, playing lead alto and taking on the role of assistant musical director. He has played shows including Grease, West Side Story and Jersey Boys. Vasyl has also taught both children and adults in between his professional performing work and enjoys personalizing his lessons to help students progress towards their individual goals. Vasyl, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's really nice.
So this is an interesting one because you were introduced to me by a friend of yours, someone who listens to the show and got in touch and thought that you have a really interesting story and lots to share. So I gave you a message and then here we are today.
Yeah, our mutual friend Stefan Milowski, who's an amazing guitarist as well. Yeah, he introduced you as he said, like, I was listening to this podcast, very interesting, maybe you want to have a go. And then you contacted me, and I was very pleased with that. And so many thanks for having me here. I apologize in advance to all the listeners, and because it's not my first language, so if something is unclear, please don't be afraid to ask me again, and I'll try to make it as clear as possible.
Oh no, you're doing great, man. Your English is like very clear, very clear. Cool. Yeah. So I think we've got a few different subjects to cover today, but just to start things off, I'd like to go back and learn a little bit more about you, where you got started and the journey that's brought you to where you are today.
So yeah, as mentioned before, I'm Ukrainian. I was born and raised in Ukraine. Not a musical family, but my dad is a massive music lover. He taught himself play guitar and a little bit of keys, accordion, wherever we had in the house. So he always wanted one of us. I have a older brother and a sister, and he always wanted one of us to be a musician. And so my brother started to play saxophone, but he didn't want to continue after the music school. So after 5 years, he quit. And we had a saxophone, guitar, and accordion in the house. And my dad decided to put me in a musical school and just to play. I also always wanted to play a double bass. I grew up in a very small town, and there's only one music school there. And when my dad took me there to pick the instrument, I said I want to play the biggest violin. But the school didn't have the double bass, and we couldn't afford one. So I have a choice of a guitar, accordion, and saxophone. So I chose the saxophone. But again, I was physically a very small child, so I couldn't hold the instrument. Physically, I wouldn't be able to hold the saxophone in my hands. And so I started to play recorder for a couple of years. And then after 2 years, I was finally able to do a saxophone. That's how I started the saxophone. And then after 5 years in the school, that was a sort of a decision for me because I either should continue to be in the school or go further. And I decided to go further and try. That was a bit of I wasn't sure about that, what I wanted to do yet. I still was very young. But my mom was saying, like, go and try the music college. And if you don't like it, you can always come back to the school after a couple of months. Give it a go. So, yeah, I tried. And my teacher in college was amazing. And he opens everything to me. And I have no regrets what I did. And then after that, I studied in uni, in the jazz faculty, because in college I was more classical orientated saxophonist. But the thing is, I had lots of problems from the school, so my embouchure wasn't right, my breathing technique. I had a lot. I wasn't a good student, put it that way. I wasn't a really good musician. So my teacher in the college spent literally first 2 years to rebuild everything, to put everything in proper place, like to correct my embouchure, breathing technique, everything. So I didn't get into the very good level at the classical playing. And in the end of the third year, he was very honest with me, and I appreciate that. I know it sounds a bit hard, but I appreciate his honesty because it did change my life. In the end of the third year of college, he was telling me, he was like, look, let's be honest. You're not going to make it as a classical musician. You're not bad, but you're not good enough to go into that scene as a classical saxophonist. So he gave me a CD of a David Sanborn, Candy Dulfer, and Charlie Parker, and to listen over the summer break. He says, like, listen to this and let me know after the summer break, what do you think? And the first CD I put, it was a David Sanborn, and I listened to the first very tune, and I was like, oh, wow, can I do that? I called him immediately and was like, I want to do that. I don't want to do classical anymore. I want to play like this guy. And he said, like, great, we have 1 more year to get you ready for uni, for the jazz. So as we did. And then, after that year, we were working on the fundamentals, jazz fundamentals, improvising, and I managed to get into the uni. And then after uni, I started doing cruise ships, because it was, first of all, it was very good money for Ukraine. Like, consider the currency exchange. That was an amazing money. And I also wanted to go and try, because my older friends who already knew, they were already working there, and just that ability to travel for free to the most amazing places in the world, and just I don't know, it took me so that idea took me there. I really love the way you can explore and travel and play with different musicians and learn another language, because I haven't spoken English before. So that was another task for me. Um, yeah, so basically it. And then after a few years of doing ships, it was actually almost 5 years, I've met my partner. She's from England. She's a violin player. I've met her there on ships, and we got together after the contract, and yeah, I'm here now, trying to make a living again in a different place as a musician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. It's a cool story. So, what my first question is, you say you did 2 years of classical and then 1 year of jazz. Did you have to learn like the whole 3 years worth of the course in that last year? Or was it sort of you'd covered a few different bits in those first years that you didn't need to do again?
No. So I started as a classical, but that last year I didn't have to learn the whole course, but just the basics can get me into the uni, so I just can pass the exam. That was quite extreme, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I was right at the edge of my ability. Like I barely passed the exams. But I did it. I made it. I transcribed 1 tune. I learned it very well. I played it well, and then I got a good scores on the theory, and that let me in. That helped me to get in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So did you, after you finished that, did you go straight into cruise ships, or did you start performing like in Ukraine around where you lived and stuff like that? And if so, what's the music scene like there, or was it like there then at least?
Yeah. So I started play weddings actually when I was 16. My first wedding, I played my first wedding when I was 15 or 16 years old. I was playing by ear with the local musicians, traditional Ukrainian weddings. They long, and so you have to play all night. Sometimes they 2 days. They don't do that anymore. They're more now the Western European style. But yeah, that's how I started to do that, because I used to play by ear a lot. My dad makes me play a lot by ear on like family in the holidays. Over the Christmas, he would take in his accordion and sing carols and play accordion, and I was accompanying him with wherever I was playing at that moment. So before I was playing recorder, as I mentioned, that's what I was doing this by ear with him, and then later saxophone. My neighbors hate it because we lived in the flat, in the like block flat house. Yeah, so I used to start do the weddings, and then when I was in college, my teacher actually was depping me some restaurant gig. That's how I started to go into the jazz and contemporary music direction. Also over summer, he gave me a few backing tracks, and it's like, okay, learn this, and I'm gonna give you a gig. You're gonna go play for 30 minutes with the backing tracks at the restaurant. They'll pay you some little money. And that's how I started. And then in the college, I was already in university. I was already ready for those kind of stuff. I had over 150 backing tracks that I could play by memory, by ear. So I was trying to look for the gigs like that. It wasn't easy for the first year because big city, I don't know anybody. I wasn't in the greatest level, so older musicians didn't really want to call me for depths. And but luckily, in the end of the year, I got my first gig actually in the new city at the restaurant. I played. Somebody had the wedding, and they booked the saxophone, and I got the gig. And then later, the older students, they were playing in the band. There was sort of a cover band, like Earth, Wind and Fire style. Massive, 11 people on stage, 4 horns, 3 vocalists, percussion, full rhythm section. So their saxophone player, he has problems with drinking. And at that moment, they got really tired with him, so they sort of fired him and hired me. They also gave me a chance because, again, I wasn't great. I could do some soloing. I could play something. I knew a lot of styles already because I was doing the backing tracks. But they gave me a go, and I stick with them for another 5 years. So we were doing a lot of like Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, that kind of style. I played alto and Barry.
Yeah.
So that was before Ships, and we started gigging. Like they had already booked dates. We played tours. There was I don't remember the year, probably 2011 or 2012. So there was a election in Ukraine for a parliament. So one of the politicians hired us for a tour to do his advertising, like campaign for him. So we did like 2 months on the tour with that band in different cities. That was kind of cool. Yeah, and just in general, the more gigs I'd done there, the more people know me, the more contacts I got, and the more I got. It's pretty much the same here. Slightly different vibe, a little bit more, like much more like musicians. The tons of musicians in London, tons of musicians in UK. In Ukraine, it was slightly smaller circles.
Yeah.
So every major city has a circle of like 40, 50 people. And if you're in that circle, you're good. So it was much easier to get into than get into here. I've been here a bit longer than a year. Looking back, much better situation than I was a year ago, but here is a little bit, it's tougher, I'd say. I don't know, is that because of my age or is that because of the circumstances I arrived here?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's not easy here to get into the musical circle, but it's very possible. And if you're aiming to do that, you will. It's just very slow. It takes time. My first gig I got here, it was from Facebook group.
Yeah.
Actually. So I was just start looking, I didn't know anybody. My girlfriend, my partner, so she's in a very different musical circle again. She's a violin, a viola player, and that's more of a classical guys, more orchestras. So I couldn't really get the gig through her friends. So I started to look at the internet, social media, Facebook, Instagram. And then there was a group in the Facebook that somebody double booked himself. So that's how I got my first gig. And I just text the guy and it's like, look, I'm here. I'm based in London. I can do this, can do that. I can play pretty much anything. I have lots of experience. And he says like, okay, that's your gig.
I'd love to get more into that in a bit. I want to go back to the cruise ships a little bit. So first of all, how did you land your sort of first cruise ship? How does that come about?
So it was 2017. I started to do an auditions before, but as a sax player, you need to double on the flute and clarinet. I never played those instruments before. So I spent around 8 months or something to get just at least to the point that I can play an audition. Again, wasn't great, but I managed. I had the 9 auditions, and 7 of them I didn't pass because of that, mostly because of that. So you have to be a strong sight reader. A very first one I had, and I completely failed it. Absolutely, I couldn't do anything properly. I didn't sight read properly. I couldn't play a clarinet. I couldn't play a flute. My English was just terrible, as I couldn't explain myself to people. So that kind of gave me a big push to do that. So immediately after I started English lessons, and then I start to practice. I woke up every day. I go into the practice room. I start practicing flute and clarinet and the sight reading. And then 8 months after, I finally pass the audition and get into the cruise ships.
Awesome. How did you find that? How was it different from, say, playing weddings or functions in Ukraine?
It was very different. For me, it was very different because, first of all, the life as a crew member, because you are the crew member, you're not just a musician there. You have also side duties like safety duties. You have to participate in the crew drill. So they give you a role of something. You can be in case of emergency, you have a duty, you have to do something. You need to understand all the signals. You need to know how to operate a fire extinguisher. You have lots of trainings in the first few months. Then they assign you for a duty. So it depends. It could be a lifeboat. You can be a crowd management team. You can be a stairway guide. You can be a firefighting team. So that was very, very different because apart from you have to do a show in the night, rehearse with the dance singers and dancers, and then you also have a massive booklet that you have to read and you have to know, because on the crew drill, the officers might come and ask you a question, and if you don't know that, you sort of in trouble. That was very different from that. Also, just being on a boat, tiny cabins, everything different, food in a crew mess. Sometimes is amazing, sometimes it's just gross. So, it's just very different society, to be honest. It's like living in a bubble a little bit. So it's like a little universe at sea. Very different. Stage work, it's very similar to theater. So there is a theater, there's a main venue, there's a couple other venues like pubs and cafes that we sometimes perform. So that's an easy bit, to be honest. A stage, a theater, what I find very interesting for me, it does have this vibe of the theater. You are the part of the show. You dress nicely. You sit. You have a call time before. There is the singers, dancers. You have to play exactly what's written. There is no messing around about that because performance depends on the music. Mm-hmm. So that was really interesting for me. It was a nice experience, to be honest. First few contracts, I really enjoyed to do that, but then later, it stopped being challenging for me. It got into the point that I know everything, and it was a bit boring, to be honest. And that's why the first thoughts to quitting got into my mind. So like, I don't want to do that anymore. It's not. This is my personal opinion. I'm not saying that this is not great. It's completely subjective. But I have a feeling like you can go on the ships and enjoy and be a musician into the certain level. There is a point, then there is no more quality. You're not growing up anymore. Yeah. And that's what kind of scared me. I like to do new stuff. I like to practice. I like to explore new things as a musician. And on the ship, it's a sort of, you go into the certain level, you play show, you play sets, and then that's it. You're basically done. That's what turned me down from that, because many musicians, they stop doing that. They stop growing. They don't practice anymore. And sometimes the orchestra is great, and sometimes you just feel a vibe like everybody doesn't want to do what they do.
Is that just because, is that part of being on the ship as well? Just like, I guess it's quite hard just being away from friends and family for a certain amount of time and in close quarters with all the other musicians and the guests as well. I imagine sometimes that a bit annoying.
Yes, that is a part of being just life on the ships, because again, as you mentioned, it is true. The contracts are long. You can do fields, like couple weeks to up to the months, but mostly they're trying to give you a long contract, which is 6 months and 3 weeks. Yeah. That's the standard contract.
Yeah, that's a long time.
And that's a long time to be on the boat without your friends, family, with your loved ones. Internet is connection is very poor. They provide internet, but it's so slow that sometimes you cannot even do a video call. It's awful.
Yeah.
Port, sometimes you're at sea for 3 days, and then you cannot go out, you cannot escape. You're sort of limited. Your personal space is limited a lot. So you have to work hard actually to get yourself a personal space. So you need to go to the library or you need to go to the gym, because most of the time you also live with somebody else in the cabin, and that thing is tiny. And if you're lucky enough to get a good roommate, if you get well with them, that's great. But if you're not, your life might be terrible. And I experienced that as well. I'm not going to say any names, but with my second contract, I had a terrible roommate. And it just makes your life miserable.
Yeah.
When you're not good, when you're not getting together, and not really, like it wasn't a terrible person. It's just the way I do things in life and the way he does things in life is so different that it's not possible to be together.
Yeah.
In such a small space.
Yeah, I can imagine, absolutely.
So you have to be aware about that. These days it's a bit better because they give now to the musicians, they give sort of a cabin. It's called single share. So you share the bathroom, but you kind of have your own room.
Yeah.
So there's like a room and the bathroom in the middle and then another room. So you sort of have your personal space. It's a bit better.
Yeah. So how long did you do cruises for? I'd imagine like some of the positives, as you actually previously mentioned, is the traveling part. You got to see some amazing places around the world, I assume.
Yeah.
So I guess once you'd kind of seen all of that, that was another reason to maybe stop.
No, the travel part is most fun, to be honest. Like there is many positive parts and many negative. Again, personal opinion, not trying to say it's not an absolute. The positive part is the travel. Positive part is that you can actually make an amazing people and musicians and explore cultures, different culture. Again, I came from Ukraine. I've never been abroad. I've been once in Turkey. That's all my experience of being in other countries. And just to speak to people, I've met so many amazing humans from all over the world, Americans, English, Indians, Chinese, Filipinos. Like you just make those connections and you talk to people. This is another bit what I really like. You met different cultures, different people. You explore. That's another good bit about that. Another positive thing, you can actually save money there if you're strict with yourself, you can save, because the salary is not great. It's about £2,500 maybe. But the thing is, you don't pay for rent, you don't pay for food, you pay for nothing. You basically need to pay for a crew bar if you want to go there, and you have to pay if you go outside. Then you spend some money, but other than that, everything is pretty much free to you. And you need to buy yourself a soap and a toothpaste, basically. So this is a good thing, especially like if you're young, if you just finished the uni and you don't really know what to do, you're lack of money, you need to do this is a great opportunity to go.
Yeah.
You go, you play music, you do some little bit of the safety, like safety trainings, the safety drills, but most of the time musicians are not working that hard as other departments. We have 4 to 5 hours of work a day maximum. Yeah. Sometimes we have day off. Sometimes we do have like one show, one rehearsal, which is in total will be like 2 hours. So sort of an easy life. From the negative bits, what I would say. Again, money, you can save money, but the salaries are not great there. It was good for Ukraine because of exchange currency. That was amazing money. But like if you're European or American, it's not a great salary. And the other bit, it is a life in a bubble. So it is a sort of, and you're getting used to it. And it takes you time when you come back especially from the long contracts, when you finish like 6-7 months and you're coming back to land. You need another couple of weeks or months to get back again into the life on land. Yeah. That was a negative bit for me. And the other negative bit, you lose connections.
Yeah.
Because you think you can stay there and be connected to people, but you lose connections. If you're out for 7 months, then you need to come back home again. And then you need to remind everybody that I'm back. I'm up for gigs. You need to do the same thing again. And that's what I've noticed. That's what happened to me. My first contract was 4 months. So after that, it was okay. I came back. Everybody was exciting. I got a few gigs back. But then my second contract was almost 9 months. It's 8 months and eight and a half months. And I came back and nobody called me anymore. That was the thing. I had to really to call every single person, every single musician I knew that I'm back and I'm willing to take gigs again. That took me a long time. So basically, month and a half, I'd say I had no job when I get back. So the money you make, you're spending because you have no income.
Yeah.
That's another bit. So you have to be prepared to sort of isolation, I would say, from the life on land. That the negative bits I can say. But on the other hand, again, you go and you see the places you probably will never afford to go on your own. We have overnights in like beautiful Amalfi Coast in Italy or some Asia. I've been in Alaska. My first contract was in Alaska, and that was amazing. There's beautiful nature there. It's just a place I would be never able to afford to go.
Yeah.
So,
and you're getting paid to be there.
And you're getting paid to be there, yeah. You're getting paid to be there.
So when you decided that you didn't want to do cruises anymore, did you go back to Ukraine, or was that when you decided to move to the UK?
So I was doing, that was my seventh contract. That was right before pandemic happened.
Right.
In 1920. So I was doing ships and I quite liked that. And I was, somebody offered me to become a musical director. So to step up in my career, that a little bit more money, much more responsibilities. But the musical director on board, he liked me and he liked the ship, and he was having a conversation with me the other day. He was like, I really like the ship. I really want to come back, but I need a replacement. Do you want to be my replacement as I'm on vacation and you take the role of the musical director, and then I'm come back and step down to the musician again? And I thought about that. That was a third offer. I refused two offers before. The people were offering me to step up because, I don't know, they like me or whatever. So I didn't want to do that because there's a musical director on board. You have to do a lot of emails, lots of admin, which I'm not great with this, and I really don't like it. So, but then that offer came third time, and I was like, oh yeah, why not? I like the ship as well. But then pandemic happened, COVID happened, all the lockdown, no ships, no nothing. I came back home. I had to get back to my parents and living with them. I love them to death, but living with your parents when you're 30 is not fun.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people can understand
that. Yeah. So that actually was for me the first moment when I was on land. For that, I stayed for 11 months. There was no contract, no jobs for 11 months. So I had to stay on land. And that kind of get into my mind as well. And I was like, I actually like it. I actually like it to be back on land, to have my own life, to go for a walk wherever I want, to practice wherever I want, to do wherever I want. That actually put the seed in my brain.
Yeah.
But then pandemic, that was going down a little bit, and then ship starts to be opening. After 11 months, I got the offer for a contract. I was actually very happy because I have no money in the end, because being in pandemic, no job, no nothing. I spent all my savings. So I was very happy I took the contract. And when I got on board after a month and a half, I had that thinking again. It's like, I'm done with this. You know, when you're just sitting on your own and thinking, and it just comes to your mind, like, I don't like it anymore. I think I want to move forward. So I was planning that to be my last contract. And it happened. In the end of the contract, I met my partner there. And then we decided to get together here in London. So, but she left 3 months. She left 3 months before me, so I had another 3 months to finish my contract, and then I finished that, and I came home to Ukraine 2 days before everything started, before the Russia invasion, and I stuck for another 11 months in there. I couldn't go anywhere because of a martial law. The man from 18 years to 60 years old not allowed to leave. But then I found the way, and I'm finally here, and I'm quite happy to be here and do what I'm doing. I'm teaching a little bit. I'm doing gigs, and I don't think I want to come back to chips.
Yeah.
But that's the thing for me. I'm enjoying the life of a human. I'm enjoying the weather. I'm enjoying the fact that I'm sort of free, and I can do whatever I want without those like limitations that you have on ships. Because it's still ships. Yeah, there are many rules. So as I said before, your personal space is very restricted, like very limited. So I don't think I want to go there again. But I cannot say any bad things if that life suits you, because I know many people who cannot live without that anymore. So if that sort of life suits you, go and enjoy and have fun and just enjoy.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's move on to life in London a little bit now. I think you've already mentioned this, but how you got your sort of first gig. And did that just lead on to more, or what else were you doing to sort of find those other first few gigs after that one?
So that gig that led me to another two I've done with that person. So he called me again a couple more times. I did Piano Works in London. That was my very first gig here. And that was basically a first thing after 5 or 6 months being here that worked, that I finally got something. When you try, and I was sending my CVs to the different schools. I was texting like random people to get any jobs. And that was the first thing which worked. So I did more. I went into more groups in the Facebook, and I've got another one, and then another one. And then that's how I met people. And one of the bands I'm dapping now quite often. So that was the same. I just met them. We played together. I like them. They sort of like me, I think, because they keep calling me. So that's how it works. And sometimes you met different people because you're not only one who's replacing somebody. Sometimes you have a different bass player or a different keyboard player. And that's how you make connection, because you have time on the gig, you have time on the breaks, that you just normal human relationship. You talk, and then you exchange contact. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's not. Sometimes, like, I've been told, I was going to the jam sessions in the beginning and met musicians play on stage together, and then we went. We were talking, and then some of them was like, "Oh, you're amazing. Give me your contacts. We're going to be working together." And they never call back. And sometimes you're not even exchanging the numbers, and they find you in Facebook or on Instagram, and they like, "Dude, are you up for a gig?" Well, we have a gig.
Yeah.
We have a job for you. Are you going? No. So that's how it works here. Pretty much like everywhere else. So, same was in Ukraine. It's just a different scale because London is massive, and music society is massive compared to the Ukrainian one. So it's just the different scale of what it was at home. At home, it was much more easier. Also, when you move and when you come as a student, when you're 19, 20, you already go into the circle automatically because you're a student. You go immediately to the circle, you know people, older students know older musicians, and that's how it works. Here, I came here under certain circumstances. I was already 31 years old, and like starting everything from the beginning, you don't know anybody, you don't know where to go, what jam session you have to visit. they really work? For me, they didn't really work. I've met a few musicians on the jam sessions, but I had no work from that. And unfortunately, I would love to do that more, but my financial situation when I came here, I need a job. I just need money. So I went more into the function circles again because I just need to make a living here. Yeah, that's why what I did. Met an amazing people as well. Pretty much the same thing. What I would say here, you need to be I think is a general thing. Just be in time, be properly dressed, smell good, communicate with people, play your gig, do your best, and you will be called. You will be called again.
Yeah.
Slowly, one by one, but you will build up that thing. Because looking back now, I've been here a little bit over the year. I arrived to London last January. So looking back, I can say it wasn't easy, but I'm in a much better situation than a year ago. So only a year in London, I'm already know some people. I already played some gigs, and it's just go for it. I would say if you need to look, if you're looking for a job, just go for it. Another thing, this more probably will be a message to the foreigners like me who try to make a living as musicians here. Because it might be easier for locals because you were born here, you know the culture more, you grow up here, you know how the things works. We don't. If you're coming from different country, especially from if you're coming from Eastern Europe or somewhere like different culture, I'd say. So you need to learn a few things here to just be open, just listen to people, pay attention how they behave. That's what I would say. Also, have a video, because video is everything. Have a good promo. If you don't have one, spend some money. I don't have an amazing one, and that's caused me a few gigs. The people didn't call me just because of that. Not because I'm not capable to do a job, but just it doesn't look good. It doesn't look too presentable as it. So have a nice video. Have a good CV. Will work. Plus, again, my partner, she's helping me a lot with that because she's English. She knows how it works here. She helped me a lot with this kind of guidance. So she was like, you need to have a good CV. You need to have a good video. That's what you do. You send the package to the customer or the people who is interested. And that's how you get the gig.
Yeah.
And again, be on time, dress properly. If people ask you to wear black trousers, please wear black trousers. That's it. That's so simple. I know it's very simple, but it works. It somehow, if people have an impression of you when you turn into the gig in time, properly dressed, everything is nice and easy. Everybody loves nice and easy. So just be nice and easy. Just try your best to do that. That's what works for me, to be honest. Just don't cause a problem.
Yeah, there's so much good advice in there, man. That was going to be my next question, which was, do you have any tips or advice for people who are just signing up? But I think you just nailed loads of stuff in there. So thank you for that.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And yeah, seriously, internet as well. I was surprised because Facebook doesn't really, in Ukraine, Facebook is more a social media thing that people use it a lot, but there's not much work. I was actually very surprised, so surprised that you actually can get a job here just simply through Facebook. There's so many groups, gigs, debts, and all sorts. Sometimes money is not great, but sometimes there are really, really good ones. And then also another thing, you never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
So far, it's just been, again, I've been very lucky because so far I didn't meet I didn't make any unpleasant connections so far. Most of the time, the musicians are brilliant and good people, and it's just good.
Yeah, awesome.
You go on a Facebook group, you go for a gig, and then you met another 4 or 5 people. Yeah, so Facebook, to my surprise, it's a good thing to go.
Yeah.
There's other platforms, but you can apply for. But again, you need to have a good CV and good videos to do that. Because even if you go on some sort of like prepaid websites that they advertise you, you get job from there. You just want your page to look good. That's how it works for customers. They look at the videos and they like you or not. They're not really thinking, he played that lick. Oh, it's a John Coltrane lick. That's so cool. I'm gonna hire him. No, they look at you, and if they like you, they book you. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah.
So
yeah, awesome, man. Yeah, again, so much good advice in there. So I guess that kind of moves us on to our last section of the show, which is your best gigs and your worst gigs, which is just a time to share any cool stories or brag a little bit or whatever you want, man. So yeah, what have you got for us?
Best gig, worst. I don't know. I played so many of them, and some of them were amazing. And some of them not, as probably any musician can say that. I remember one really. It wasn't really a gig. It was just a situation. Again, on the ship, you have a sound engineer, and sometimes they are great, and sometimes they are not. And on my very first contract, my very first sound check before the show, we went on stage for the sound check, and I was so surprised of the work of it. There was a sound engineer from Scotland. His name's Mike. That was probably the best sound engineer I ever worked with. That was my first ever sound check that I didn't have to speak. Everything on stage, all he did, he just asked me to play. He says, like, can you play? And please don't stop, just play. And I was playing, and all the monitors, all the sounds, everything just went into the right place that I actually don't have to ask him for anything. That was like, wow, I never experienced that. I never experienced that in my life, that somebody can be so good, like, that you don't have to talk to him.
Yeah.
that was a very cool one. Also, there were a few gigs on the ships that I was very happy to be a part of. Sometimes you get an amazing guest entertainers. They come in with the great shows. One of them, unfortunately, he passed away last year. Joel Mason. He wasn't a big name in the, like, he wasn't something like a massive star, but he was sort of known on the ships. He had such a fun show to play, good arrangements, and I just remember, like, every time I saw his name, or when you do the contract, they coming back and they like returning. The guest entertainers are always the same, more or less. They just rotating. So I remember every time after first show with him, I was always so excited when I saw his name on the list that he's coming. That was one of my of the best gigs. Absolutely brilliant, bright person, and vibe in the orchestra. It doesn't matter how you get together, what's the vibe in the orchestra, but that person always makes the show go so well and so easy. That was probably one of my, if speaking about ships, that was probably my favorite one. And on land, I did many gigs in Ukraine. I cannot really pick one, to be honest. Some of them were really great. Some of them I love to play in the big bands. This is a very complicated question. The worst gigs, of course, there were some on the ship. Again, if speaking about ships, there were some people that I never felt. I actually felt bad to be on stage with that person next to it. That's how bad it could be. But it's rarely. It's not that often at all. So that was some of the terrible gigs. Yeah, but no, I didn't do anything so far in my life. I haven't played with any like stars or very famous people, so I cannot really say that. But I've done many good gigs and many bad gigs as well.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. I cannot really take one. I'm sorry. a bit boring.
No, that's great, man. That's great. Awesome. I mean, yeah, I guess that kind of brings us to an end unless there's anything else that you wanted to discuss.
No, I pretty much said everything.
So yeah, I mean, thanks for sharing your story, first of all.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you for having me.
So if anyone wanted to connect with you or find out a little bit more about you, where would you send them to? Have you got a website or your social media contacts or anything?
If anybody wants, I have a Instagram profile, the same name, Vasyl Sahan. You can find me. Same in Facebook, you can contact me. And pretty much all the information is on my social media pages. So
awesome.
If anybody's interested to get more, I'm happy to share.
Yeah. Again, man, thank you so much for sharing your story. And yeah, it's been great to chat to you.
No, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, man. So there we go. I really hope you enjoyed our conversation. I think Vasyl had loads of great advice that you can start putting into action straight away. And I just wanted to thank him again for coming on. As always, I'm going to ask that if you're enjoying this podcast, please give it a share so more people can find it. I've got a really interesting guest lined up for next week, and I'm really looking forward to that. But that's enough from me for this one. Take it easy, and I'll catch you next week for episode 14.